Michael Moore weighs in on the punches thrown between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders.
Team Rising is here with their take. Will Jawando, he's a Democratic strategist, and Johnny Burtka, executive director at the American Conservative magazine. Two great friends of the show. Good to see you guys.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. All right, so Michael Moore's got some interesting new comments about the Bernie-Warren feud. He's not very happy with Senator Elizabeth Warren. Let's take a listen to what he said.
I mean, to be honest, the night that happened, my first thought was they will mark this day, January 13th, as the day Donald Trump was reelected. Because once again, the Democrats, the liberals, the left, couldn't get it together, couldn't figure out, instead of so happy to get right in there and fight each other like this. And I'm like, when are we ever going to learn? This is on us. This is not on the Russians. It's not on the Republicans. It's on the Democratic Party for not getting its act together and not using its head.
What do you think, Michael? Or, sorry, what do you think, Will? That's pretty crazy.
We know what Michael thinks.
You know, I think it's a little hyperbolic, but I've said before.
Hey, he called Trump. Don't forget that.
He did.
He did.
Yeah.
I do think that it was not a good move from Warren. Obviously, we have polls now to show that it,
Didn't work out
at
for
least in
her.
the short term, is not helping her. I don't think it's good for the party. I think anytime we're spending attacking, each other on things like this is a moment we should be attacking Trump for destroying the country. So I think he's right in the premise. I don't think it's going to lead to us losing the election, but we need to get back on track.
This is where I actually dissent from him on this. I think we should be absolutely drawing distinctions among Democrats on policy, on things that actually matter. And so to me, that's the problem, isn't that, they're being mean to each other. It's Elizabeth Warren came into politics in opposition in a lot of ways to Joe Biden and the way he sold out to credit card issuers and backed them in this bankruptcy bill. I mean, she was scathing.
That's right.
And now here you are, weeks to go before Iowa, on the biggest stage there could possibly be, and rather than making that case, which actually matters to people's lives, you bring up this stuff. To me, that's the biggest loss.
That's right. I mean, it's fine. I think attacking someone personally is one thing, but going to fight against someone on policy issues is what the American people want.
Yeah.
And I think it was a total flop. And not only was it irrelevant and not something that I think your just ordinary voter cares about, the whole tenor of the debate was just boring. I mean, frankly, after an hour of watching it, I turned it off and watched The Crown or something like that.
And you work in politics.
And I work in politics.
Enraging and boring, personally.
But that's the thing, Will, is whenever we're not talking about this, who's the scot-free winner? Joe Biden. I've been saying this here. And because he was getting dragged for Iraq and the war vote, and now nobody's talking about it. His surrogates don't have to go out on TV and defend it. Instead, we're going to be litigating this crap for the next week. And so, Biden's going to win. I mean, if this is the stuff that's going to keep up.
Well, you're exactly right. I remember I was in L.A. for that debate, and I brought it a couple times. When that arguing was going on, he was just kind of folding his hands, just sitting back, like, please go ahead. And I think you're exactly right on the analysis piece. That helps Biden when that happens. And I agree with you, Crystal. Let's talk about policy. Let's talk about differences among each other that matter. The personal stuff. Even though Trump is a king of that, and it works for some people, I don't think it works for our base in this primary, and it's not going to help.
And even then, I don't think that stuff really did help Trump. You know why Trump won? Because he was hardcore on immigration, and he was the only one willing to call him out on Iraq. That's it. It's actually like pretty simple. All the other stuff is extraneous, and it's like personality. And yet, we don't see that from Bernie or Warren, right? I mean, I said earlier in one of my monologues, Johnny, which is that, like, Bernie has had nicer things to say about Joe Biden than Obama had to say about Hillary. Like, Bernie allegedly is totally different, so is Warren, than Joe Biden. And they can't even hit him on his real record.
They could fight on these issues and they could win on these issues.
Yes! It's like,
people
you're
would
right,
love it, and they're just not doing it. It's and
they're just sitting
if they
there
don't do it, Trump will win. And I think.
And he's assisting Biden by not pointing out the differences more often, right?
Yeah,
because if you line up their policy proposals, they're going to be so far apart. But when you see the way they interact, you wouldn't know that. And a lot of people are going off of that social emotional interaction. And Bernie doesn't realize he's like transferring like Joe's okay.
Well,
With
the Hillary piece, because Obama made it so clear. He's like, I got nothing to do with this woman. And he's like, I had nothing but contempt for this woman. And that actually helped.
I do think it's partly just, it's easier to do that when you don't actually know the person. Just on a human level. Like a lot of politics, we think about the high level strategy. A lot
Obama
of it
v.
is
Clinton, right? Right, didn't know
actually
each other.
they didn't really know each other. So it's easier to say the truth, which is she's gonna, she'll tell you anything and do nothing. Then Bernie and Joe have known each other a long time, and you're standing next to this guy who you like on a personal level.
Gives you those pearly whites.
Those pearly whites. It is harder, right?
It is personal connection, and both things are true, right? And that's why Joe, I think, has this desire for bipartisanship and the collegiality of the Senate and how do we get together. But they are dramatically apart. The debate is time to say, why are we different? We can be friends later, but why are we different on policy? And I think he's kind of charming Bernie in that sense. And Bernie's probably not getting the best advice, but maybe he'll.
But I think he does get the best advice. I think he does get this advice. He just won't do it.
It's not constitutional it literally is not within his constitution, but it doesn't seem to be within any of their constitution. Because I guess I just don't understand. Obama was so good at being an inspirational figure while also stabbing you in the chest. I mean, that is what he did to Hillary Clinton. And none of them seem to have learned that lesson. It's like they don't understand how politics actually works,
well, you can
which is drawing real contrast.
I mean, you have to say, that's the play Warren tried to make, right? And she can't go against Bernie on policy because the base is with Bernie.
That's right.
I mean, he's the most trusted on healthcare, on climate, on the economy, on all the top issues for voters. Bernie is most trusted. She knows her whatever healthcare plan isn't going to compare favor. She didn't even say the words Medicare for all in that whole debate. Yeah. She knows that isn't the lane for her, so she has to do it on this personal or identity vote for the woman thing. That's really all she's got.
Yeah, that's right. Now I think Bernie can do it. I mean, he can do it going against Republicans or just in the speeches or rallies when he's talking about his opponents, but he has a hard time doing it when he's shoulder to shoulder with with the Democrat.
And I actually think there is a lane for Elizabeth to tack on the identity woman piece, but the way she did it was just improper. Right? You can say, I think there should be a woman president for X, Y, and Z reasons. I think Bernie's old and is out of touch on race and blah, blah, blah. You can lob claims to him that are, that people might connect with. Some people, it might turn them off, but the way she did it about that personal conversation and he doesn't think, that was just the totally wrong way to do it. So I actually think they could have done it in a way that probably appealed to more people, but she just botched the whole thing.
I think that's right.
Indeed. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll have more for you after this.